Welcome, guys, to the CFL show, Two and Out, found only here on WagerTalk TV. It's week 21, the final week of the CFL season. There's still games to be played, there's still money to be made. And with me from WagerTalk.com, our CFL expert, Andrew McInnis, and our insider who last week celebrated his birthday, Rob Braley. Andrew, let's bring you in. Week 21 of the CFL season. Um, we're looking for odds. I think everyone is looking for odds on these games. I'm guessing we'll likely see them probably by the end of the day, but there are no numbers up. And I think a lot of that has to do with pretty much everything is settled. Give me your thoughts.
Well, Carm, you know what it means. The books are scared. That's why they're not putting those odds up for us. They're scared. They don't know what to do right now. And I think that it makes sense. The last week of the regular season, they're trying to figure out who's playing, who's not playing, who cares about these games this week and who doesn't. I feel better going into this week actually than I have the last 2 weeks. I'm excited. Obviously, I have to see some point spreads before I can start confidently saying which teams I'm looking to really bet on. But there's some good situations to talk about. We have a few points we're going to break down today, and the CFL playoffs start next week. So I can't wait, guys.
Yeah, they do, and it's a great time. It's only 3 games this week, but Rob, I want to bring Rob in because and Andrew, I'm going to bring you in the insider section as well too, because there's a couple of questions I want to talk to you about with regards to betting halves and betting full games in the final week of the season, sort of like the preseason in the NFL. But Rob, thanks for once again coming and doing this segment with us. You've been here all year long, and we really do appreciate it. Hope you're well. Um, and you're wearing that BC hat after that upsets loss to the Calgary Stampeders, which we're going to talk about as well too. How are things, Rob?
Things are good. It was an interesting week last week. I was dead wrong on the BC game. I'll admit that. I don't think anybody saw Calgary going into BC and putting up 41, and BC just not showing up. I'm still baffled about that one. The other 2 games went pretty much as normal. Toronto beat Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan's out of the playoffs. Saskatchewan fires their coach this week, and Winnipeg really took care of business against an Edmonton team that had already packed their bags and went home for the winter. So this week we got 3, I'm going to say Eastern-style games, mostly the Eastern teams coming off byes from last week. Montreal, Hamilton, going to play each other twice, back-to-back, once in the last game of the season. And then they go back to Montreal right after that for the playoff game. Toronto's going into Ottawa. I'm hearing things that Toronto's not bringing the full force, but or they're going to play, some of the backups. Kelly might play a little bit, but they're going to start to rest some guys. But I'm also hearing Winnipeg's going to do the same thing. And for O'Shea to do that's very rare. He likes to finish the season strong. They don't play the week after. So, like I said, until you see the lineups, I've looked at the injury reports. It doesn't look like any major things anywhere. But until the lineups are out and the depth charts are out, it's really hard to lay points with anybody. Well, how do you do it now where there is no points to lay? So anyway, it's kind of an interesting week.
And that's the thing, right? We've got a Friday night 9 Eastern game, and then a couple of games on Saturday. So I see the reluctance of books at least midweek on a Wednesday to release any odds until more information comes out, and that information probably comes out on Thursday. At which point we'll see some lines for these games. But you talked about the Hamilton and Montreal one, and that's where I want to go to you first on that one. Obviously, they play this game here, which is a meaningless game unless you're betting it, and they'll meet in the first round of the playoffs. Are they resting players in this game? I think at this point, 21 weeks into the season, they're not worried about showing them something new. So I don't think that comes into it. But how does this game become even bettable on Saturday?
Of the 3 games, I think this one is going to be the most competitive. I think both teams are going to show up here. I think they're going to play. I think they're going to want to send a message one way or another. Hamilton has lost both meetings to Montreal, 27-14 and 38-12, I believe. Montreal, believe it or not, hasn't lost to a team below 500 all year. And they have a much better point differential over the season than Hamilton. Hamilton lost to BC. They beat Saskatchewan, beat Calgary, lost to Toronto, and they beat Winnipeg right after the Labor Day. Neither one of these teams are flying into the playoffs, but I think Hamilton may have something to prove here. And they always say it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a row in one season. But I think you're going to see a very competitive football game here. They're very, very similar style of offenses. I mean, Butler's got 1,141 yards rushing. Montreal runs the ball very well. Max 1,100 yards in receiving. Tim White's got 1,200 yards receiving. They both got receivers. They both got running backs. I think Montreal's defense is better than Hamilton's. Their point differential, I think Montreal gives up 22 points a game, Hamilton 26. I give Montreal the advantage there. But this is a one game, and who knows what's going to happen. But as far as the playoff game the week after, I think Montreal is a better football team. But Hamilton definitely has new life. The only thing that scares me about Hamilton is they have a revolving door of quarterbacks. You don't know who's going to start, who's going to finish, who's going to take the middle of the game. They got 3 guys that go in and out, and Fajardo has been steady and solid. Not outstanding, but he's been good enough, and there's consistency there on the offense at least. And by the injury reports, I think the only major injury I see for this week is Keon Julian Grant didn't practice, and other than that, it's pretty straightforward. So until the lines come out, like you said, it's hard to pick a side here.
Yeah. Andrew, I want to bring you in on this one because I'm always of the thought, okay, first of all, in a game when you're blowing someone out, you take out your best players. You don't get them injured. But in a game like this, these guys they're going to meet next week again. I don't want. I'd rather not see players rest. I think you send a message to the team you're about to play, and what better message for a Montreal to send to Hamilton is than to lay a bit of a beat down on them in Hamilton, and then wait for them to show up in La Belle Provence. What do you think?
Carmine, I saw a quote from Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, pretty much just saying, look, if you might know my playbook, you might know the plays are about to come at you, you still have to stop them. And that's how I feel about this game. I mean, some people, they say in their handicap in these situations, well, you wouldn't want to give away too many tricks, or you wouldn't want to show the other coach too many of your schemes. Well, the fact of the matter is they're going to only have 3 or 4 days in practice anyway to try and work on defending those. I think anything that they do in this game on the weekend is going to be very difficult for the other team to just kind of all of a sudden plan against. So I'm seeing a lot of people talk about in the CFL, when you see matchups like this that you're already going to see in the playoffs, these coaches will be hesitant. They'll be careful. And I'm on the side of you guys where it's just like this team, whatever team it might be, wants to go out there and send a message. And the fact of the matter is, like Rob stated, this Montreal Alouettes team is an entire different team when they play someone below them in the standings versus ahead of them in the standings. And it's happened all summer long, all fall long. You look at their game against the Elks, 35 points, 29 spot on the Redblacks, 32 on them the next time, 28 points against the Stampeders. This is a team that has been dominant when they haven't been playing top dogs. And that's why on the show, I kept on mentioning some books now are offering not just 14-1, but 16-1 for the Alouettes to win the Grey Cup. Now, if you got the Toronto Argonauts early in the season to win the Grey Cup, at this point, you might as well throw in a little sprinkle on the Alouettes, because if they do get by Hamilton in the week 1 playoffs, then all of a sudden you're going into that CFL Eastern final with a 16-1 ticket. And I think you really set yourself up to some success. But I just wanted to mention that. I just think that this is a situation where maybe you see a lot of the run game. So you maybe look towards the under, even though, as Rob will say, unders have been so hard to bet right now in the CFL. But I don't see any reason why these teams are very cautious. I think, like you said, Carm, they want to send a message going into week 1 of the playoffs.
All right, Andrew McInnis, our CFL expert from WagerTalk. You can get his plays right through to the um, end of the playoffs, the Grey Cup, of course, which is in Hamilton this year for only $84. Head over to his page at WagerTalk, and a very impressive 8-1 run with his 5% CFL plays. So head over there and take advantage of that deal. $84. It's a great deal. Rob, I promise you this is the last time I'm going to ask you to talk about the Argonauts. My Toronto Argonauts. Yes, I don't own them, but it's good to cheer for a team that actually wins games. Um, Talk to me about this game. Are they going to rest Chad Kelly? I know Chad wants to be in there. He forced his way on in the third quarter of the last game. Or does he play like a quarter of the game and then we see Cam Dukes for the rest of this contest?
Well, Toronto is playing for a franchise record, believe it or not. If they get this win, it's number 16, and that tops the Doug Flutie, Rocket Ismail, Matt Dunnigan, all those years. They've never hit 16 wins. So the Toronto players will definitely be motivated here. The question I have is, what is Ottawa's mindset? So I'm not going to sit on Toronto resting. Kelly is getting first team reps right now. He had a little leg injury, but he is getting the reps. We will definitely see him rest at some point. Cameron Dukes has played just fine coming in replacement. If you watched the end of the game last week, Toronto was losing with about a minute and a half left. Dukes leads them down. He even had a 3rd and 10 on that final drive and threw it for about 25 yards. He closed out the game. They won the game. Like Dukes doesn't scare me. I mean, they're still going to score their points. If I look at Ottawa's defense against like this high-powered Toronto offense, Ottawa gives up 28 points a game. They've given up 52 touchdowns. The opposing net offense has been 380 yards a game, 7 yards per play they're giving up. They're dead last in pass defense. They give up 310 yards a game by pass. That's an average of about 10 yards per play. I don't know what Ottawa's got to how they fight back in this game. I'm sure they're packed up as well. They're ready to go. So I think Toronto wins this game. I just don't know by how much or what. Like again, what's the spread? Who knows? But I look for Toronto to score their 30 points. I think they're still going to show up on offense, and what they do on defense. It all depends on whether Ottawa shows up or not. So I'm leading Toronto to win this football game for sure.
All right, go Argos. Let's get that record. I want to switch focus, Rob, because we saw a huge upset, and it was the team whose hat you're wearing that got upset at home in a game that was meaningful for them, but they just could not
Yeah.
stop the Calgary Stampeders running game. It was, I watched the game and I just couldn't believe. I'm like, they just couldn't do anything to stop them. Is Calgary building momentum heading into the playoffs? Because they're going to end up meeting this BC team. It'll be in BC, but they've got a game here against Winnipeg, and you talked about Winnipeg possibly resting some players. And let me tell you, the weather right now in Calgary, McMahon Stadium, I saw some images yesterday of snow on the ground in McMahon Stadium. Winter is here.
Yep.
Rob, give me your thoughts on the Stamps, and are they gaining momentum at the right time?
Well, let's go back. Let's go back to the BC performance, and you're right. They ran the ball. Kadeem Carey, 15 rushes for 88 yards. Peyton Logan, 8 rushes for 105 yards. That's almost 200 yards in the ground right there. Jake Maier, they scored 41 points. Jake Maier was 10 of 21, less than 50% for 123 yards and 2 interceptions. Calgary definitely has some things to work out here before they go to the playoffs. I think they're going to try and get Jake Maier some reps, like some passes downfield. They got to throw the ball at some point. They can't just run. Winnipeg is the same. Winnipeg runs the ball very well, but they also pass the ball very well. Does Winnipeg show up here? I think Calgary can put a good game on the field, keep it close, whether they win by 3 or lose by 2 or 3. I think that's a good performance and a team builder for Calgary going into BC again. BC will be ready for that run game next week, believe me, or after the bye week. Yes, Calgary can gain some momentum here very late in the season. I mean, they haven't been that impressive down the stretch. I mean, what's their record? They're only 6-11. But you know, if they show up this week, I think they can build off of that, definitely.
Well, Rob, you know I'm cheering for the Argos and Calgary to meet in Hamilton for the Grey Cup for obvious reasons I'm not going to mention once again on the show, but I think it'll be a great game to go and watch. Andrew, I want to bring you in, and then Rob, you can chime in on this one as well too. You know, we're heading into the final week of the CFL season. 3 games, 2 on Saturday, 1 on Friday night. And it has the feel of almost the feel of a preseason where we see some of the starters in possibly in the first half, and then we see sort of those second units in the second half. Andrew, how do you bet these games? Are you more likely to bet first halves, or are you going full games?
Well, I think especially if I'm betting favorites, I'm betting the first half. And you know, it's funny, Carm, because you look at the NFL and the CFL early in the season, and you tell yourself, well, sometimes actually you can bet the underdogs in the first half, and the big favorites need 4 quarters to really get going, get the ball going, and then they'll end up covering a big spread. I mean, how many times do we see big spreads in the CFL throughout the summer? And the underdog will hang around for the first half, and then that big favorite ends up covering their original spread in the full game. This, to me, is one of those opportunities here where we talk about somebody like Montreal. We look at the Argos here. If there's ever a time and ever a week for backdoor covers, this might be the week. So we don't have exact point spreads. We don't have the numbers here, but I'm thinking this could be one of those spots where when you look at what the market gives us for first half versus full games, I have a feeling they're going to be thinking the exact same thing I'm thinking, and we'll see some very interesting numbers for the first half compared to the full. It's not going to be, you know, if a team is -8, the first half's going to be -4. It's going to be very interesting how much more, you know, how much more they favor the first half lines, because I get what Rob said there about wanting to reach that benchmark, talking about records, talking about ending the season on a really great note. But a lot of that comes in the first half. And I think that with some of these favorites, that's when we'll see them have their success. So maybe a live bet on some of these underdogs and things like that. But I mean, a team like Calgary, obviously they're going to be underdogs this weekend. The fact of the matter is, I think, guys, that we're going to get a better number on them after, like, let's say the first quarter than we will, you know, pregame. I know it's easy to say that now before the game actually starts, but for me, I would actually look to bet the favorites in the first half and the dogs in the full game.
All right, Andrew McInnis of WagerTalk. You can follow him on the X or Twitter, whichever you call it, at McInnis Picks. And of course, Rob Braley at Rob_Braley, myself, Carmine Bianco, WT. We're always tweeting information out across all sports, so it's always good. Rob, do you want to chime in on this at all? Are you obviously you're going to wait? We need to wait for the odds to come out, but this is one of those ones where you look at some teasers or just some first half bets.
I got to agree with Andrew's philosophy there. I think like the Winnipegs and the Torontos and the better football teams are going to play first halves. They both have bye weeks there. They still want to establish their offense. They want to keep consistency. They don't want to sit their starters for 2 weeks. When Drew Brown comes in for Winnipeg, he'll probably come in the second half. He's playing for a job as well. He's looking at being a starter somewhere else next year. And same with Cameron Dukes. And both these guys have played very well in their limited time on the field. So even if Zach Collaros gets pulled in the second quarter, that doesn't scare me. I still think Winnipeg and Toronto are going to move the football against anybody, whoever they play. I don't think it matters. So like the first halves, if the spread's an 8 and the first half's a 6.5, be careful. If it's a 4.5 or 5, you know, you might be better off. But we got to see the lines. But I totally agree with the first half betting philosophy. And Ottawa, I can't see a backdoor cover no matter what it is. But Calgary, I think they're going to play the full game for sure, and they're going to want to play a good second half of football. So yeah, I agree totally with what Andrew's saying and what his philosophy is for sure.
All right. Love it, Rob. And again, I really appreciate you chiming in throughout the whole year. And I know once you get the information, you get a lot of the information early, so it trickles down to me and Andrew as well too. Excuse me. Guys, if you never want to miss another show on Wager Talk, make sure you hit the subscribe button and that like button and drop a comment Let us know who you think is going to win the Grey Cup this year. The teams are settled. It's just a matter of who wins that first round, the divisional finals, and gets to that game in Hamilton. Let us know. Drop a comment in there. If you're holding a ticket, let us know what ticket you're holding right now. Andrew, speaking of tickets, let's cash the season finale of the Extra Point tickets with the Inside the Numbers Extra Point segment. Let us know what you got.
Yeah, Carm, it's hard for me to be inside the numbers when I don't have any numbers for today for us. But I just want to say thank you to everybody that watched the CFL show, and really, hopefully, the three of us were able to earn more fans of the CFL, and especially if you were cashing some tickets, that makes a big impact on that, and that helps you become a fan of the league. So hopefully we see you guys next year watching CFL 2 and Out as well, and you can grab that package, of course, all the way till the Grey Cup for $84. And, you know, best bet 5% plays are $35. You can get all of my plays for $84. And look, this week, I want to look to bet on the Calgary Stampeders. This is a team that just barely made their way into the playoffs. They're just limping. They're wounded, just barely sliding into the playoffs. And if there's ever a team this week in week 21 that will not take their foot off the gas pedal, that will not be resting any players, it's the Calgary Stampeders. And last week, Winnipeg put up a ton of points. They looked comfortable, confident. Usually it's the second last week where they rest players, and the last week they go out and play all their guys. This week, I expect the opposite. I expect Winnipeg to be resting some guys later in the game, and for Calgary to show up and get the job done. So I don't have a point spread right now to mention, but I'm looking to bet on the Calgary Stampeders this weekend.
All right, there you have it. Guys, for everyone who tuned in throughout the year, it has been a great year, a very profitable year. If you followed the information on this show from our insider and, of course, Andrew McInnis, our CFL expert at WagerTalk, I know I did. I cashed my futures, and I appreciate it from both you guys on those ones and some tickets along the way. So for myself, Andrew McInnis, and Rob Braley, this is CFL 2 and Out. Thanks for tuning in, and good luck with your wagers.